Dear friends, good morning on Wednesday the 27th of October. Last week I spoke about the shocking recent revelations of sexual, physical, emotional and spiritual abuse by church leaders, some of whom are well-known evangelicals. Highly gifted and able men, and yes, they are all men, who looked as though they were using their gift to serve others, were actually serving themselves, abusing their power and position to gratify their own selfish desires. I suggested that one of the ways to avoid such abusive behaviour is to meditate on Paul's wonderful description of love in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Let me remind you of it. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonour others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. As I've been preparing to preach on this passage on Sunday, I've been struck by Paul's exalted description of love, which is quite understandably often read at weddings. But Paul does not define love in a series of abstract qualities that we have to perform to be more loving. You ought to be more kind. You ought to be less envious. You shouldn't boast, be proud, etc. Rather, he speaks of love as a person who is kind, who does not envy, who doesn't boast, who isn't proud. And that's because the only way to receive love is by being loved by someone else. Quite rightly, orphanages were closed down in this country last century. Children were not flourishing in institutions which were only providing for their basic needs, for food and clothing and shelter and education and so on. Children need so much more. They need love. So now children whose families can't care for them are brought up by adoptive or foster parents who love them and envelop them, hopefully, in loving families. Children are much more likely to flourish if they are loved in the way that Paul describes in these verses. We all need this sort of love, from parents, grandparents, spouses, children, siblings, or close friends. Without it, we shrivel up emotionally, or we seek love in all the wrong places. And I think this is one of the reasons for the recent cases of spiritual abuse. Some Christian leaders have been trying to make up for their own love deficits by seeking a distorted and perverted form of love from those that they should be serving. But no relationship on this earth, however loving, can ever give us the unconditional love that we need. It's impossible to read this passage without thinking of the Lord Jesus Christ, who is endlessly kind and humble, who is never self-seeking or angry, and who never keeps a record of our wrongs. When he died on the cross, he poured out his life in love for us. His love never fails. He stayed on the cross until he said, "It is finished." He was God forsaken, so that we will never be forsaken. Has anyone ever loved us like this? Jesus doesn't teach us love as a principle. He pours out his love for us. And as we experience his love, that enables us to go out in love towards others, knowing that we are loved. And for those of us in ministry, we will be empowered to love those whom we are called to serve, rather than seek love from them in ways that can so easily lead to abuse. God bless you today.